There's been a lot of talk about Blazy's new Chanel collection, and I thought, what would Coco herself actually say? So let's see if we can figure that out. Everyone, welcome back to the channel. So if you haven't watched before, I have a long history with Chanel, the Chanel brand. I was a makeup artist for Chanel half a lifetime ago, and I grew up loving the showmanship, if you will, of Chanel under Lagerfeld and all of the things that I saw in New York that centered around Chanel. And then also I had an aunt who had been part of the Coco Chanel way back in the day, in the 50s and the 60s. And so I had spent a lot of time trying to understand during those days what fashion really was and what it meant. I really wanted to be a designer. I took private art lessons for years. I did a lot of design work and thought I was going to go in that direction. And, you know, life always throws things at you. But to this day, I love fashion. I love elements of a design. To me, it's more about the feel and the atmosphere that piece can create than necessarily a particular sweater or color or price point or all those things. Like I get great joy out of seeing something beautiful created. And I always hesitate to critique or criticize any creator because I feel like unless you've created something yourself, unless you have spent your time and energy and love and soul creating something, you know, just creating something that you then put out to the world, it's really easy to criticize it. And you don't understand, you know, how gut-wrenching it can be if somebody tears it apart. So I generally don't criticize brands, or even like when I'm talking about makeup, say, you know, I hate this or this is terrible. Every once in a while I do. Every once in a while I'll just be like, this is awful. But usually what I'm trying to say is, this isn't right for me, or I don't think this would be right for you, or this is what these are the people that I think would like this. More of that perspective, because I feel like fashion, beauty in general is not factual, right? It's personal and it's subjective. What I might think is beautiful, someone else might hate. And this Blazy collection, the Métier d'Art collection, I can't do the French, it's Métier d'Art. I can't even do it. But this collection seems very divisive. And I think that in and of itself is really interesting because there's, to me, again, I'm older, so I have three distinct visions of Chanel. I have Coco's Chanel, I have Lagerfeld's Chanel, and now we're looking at the beginnings of Blazy's. And I do think they are different. Many people who are in their, I would say 40s and younger, see it as Lagerfeld's Chanel. And that's how they think Chanel is. And I don't think that's totally true. I think, of course, he icon in the fashion world and definitely cemented his role as part of Chanel and the recreation almost of Chanel. But there is a difference between how Coco, at least from the research and writings that she had done and the things that she had said publicly. She didn't talk a lot about how she felt about things. She was a very interesting, she's an interesting person. And you can love somebody's talent and creation and still recognize that they are a complex person. I feel the same way about Lagerfeld, to be honest. But they have very different personalities and very different perspectives about fashion and the Chanel woman, actually. So, you know, when I thought about how to do this, because I did want to comment on it because I just thought it was so interesting that it's so divisive, his collection. People either love it or they hate it. And the people who hate it seem to be the people who are the people buying Chanel ready-to-wear, which is a very small portion of the population because it's extremely expensive. The Métier d'Art collection is like just one step down from couture, so it's the most expensive of the expensive ready-to-wear. And so the VIC clients seem to be the ones that are unhappy, but it's hard to tell that because the collections really haven't gone live yet. So we don't know how things are going to actually sell. We don't know how things are going to actually be priced. So all of those things are true. And if you go back to when Lagerfeld, when he started at Chanel, you have to understand, it was 1983, I think, and Chanel was seen as a fading old-fashioned brand, right? It was irrelevant. Why would you take over Chanel? Like, it's just not even worth it. And loyal Chanel clients were very nervous about it. They did not, because I knew people. They were much older than me, but they were very nervous about it. And they were afraid, and there's a reason I'm tying this into Blazy, that Chanel would become too youthful, the silhouettes would be changed too much, they would disrespect Coco's minimalism, because Coco was a minimalist. She was not into outlandish and maximalist designs. And that he would introduce trends that were on Chanel. That's what everybody thought. And they thought he was far too bold for a traditional house like Chanel. And, the brand was profitable in the early 80s, but sleepy. It was just not wasn't talked about. Kind of like it is now. It's profitable, very profitable actually, but it's not, like, nobody is praising Chanel. Like, they're not designs coming out and going, oh my goodness, like, this is the most innovative design. That's not Chanel, right? It's all of the things I just said that they said about it in 1983. And people felt that the tweed suit was outdated, and younger generations didn't care about it. Same as now. This is pretty much the same. And then he came in. Lagerfeld came in. And the press was intrigued when he came in. First collections, there were 3 reactions, basically. Press thought it was cool because they could take lots of pictures. Fashion insiders were like, huh, because there was a lot of humor and irony and stuff to his work. And the camellias, the pearls, the tweed, the chain checks, all of that felt young. Like he reinvented, but kept all of the, main pieces of the brand. And within 2 to 3 seasons, the narrative flipped and everybody was like, okay. So again, I just want to reiterate, in the beginning, skepticism, fear of change, doubt that he could do what he said he could do, and thought that he would betray Coco's purity of fashion sense, right? And then, of course, he became Lagerfeld. And I think we have a lot of that now. I would just say, as a general statement, I don't think it's that different than it was in 1983. There are some changes, some differences, but as a general rule, I think those are the same fears that people have now. And I think that the way Lagerfeld was able to reinvent the brand was to take all of the classic images and pieces of Chanel and make them feel new and youthful and reinvigorated. So that is kind of what Blazy would have to do going forward. So looking at this through her eyes, and she was a very interesting person. When she started designing, her philosophy was that fashion should free women. That's how she viewed it, not restrict them. So the whole corseted idea, out the door. Like, that was her main thought. And everything should be simple. Simplicity was elegance to her. Style must be timeless. There's no such thing as trends. So, you wear something in 1950, you wear it in 2020. Like, it's timeless. The clothing is supposed to serve, and she said at the time, she was designing for women, to serve the woman, not the other way around. So the woman's not supposed to serve the clothes. The clothes are supposed to do what the woman needs them to do. And that craftsmanship matters, but only when it has a purpose. So over-embellishment is over-embellishment. If there's a reason for the embellishment, then great. But if it's just there for shine, she didn't want it. She was a very minimalistic person for her time period. So I think the first question she'd ask is, for this collection, does this allow a woman to be freer? Does this allow a woman to live? Are the silhouettes comfortable? Are they easy and wearable? I think many of them are. I think you could argue that some of the collection is extremely wearable. like the pullover, 3/4 zip, and pair of jeans, which are made out of silk, by the way. My understanding is all the denim in the show was silk, which I really want to get my hands on. Because for me, denim is too heavy. Like, I have difficulty wearing jeans because it gets too hot for me and I don't like it. The only time I really wear jeans is like when I was out horseback riding, because you want something. That's why people wore denim, because you get it, you're on a horse. There are some shows, right? There are some looks, I think, that very much are the liberating, freeing women kinds of looks. Like, I think these looks epitomize what she was saying for her time. Again, I'm looking at this through her structure, her eyes, but there's a huge difference between 1930s and 40s and 2025, about to be 2026, and how we view things. Like, you can't, if you haven't watched me before, you don't know that I'm a lawyer, I'm an attorney, I was a lobbyist for 30 years, worked in policy and politics in Washington, D.C., and there are people who have different views about how the Constitution should be interpreted. Some feel strict interpretation, which means that if it's not in the Constitution, therefore it does not exist, and that Congress has to make up whatever laws would take that place. Others feel that the Constitution is a living, breathing document that can be reinterpreted over time. If you are looking at something that it's a living, breathing entity, like Chanel, like a brand, it's going to be reinterpreted. You're not going to have the exact same design as you had in 1935, but you can take that tweed, you can take that camellia, and update it. That's what Lagerfeld did. I think that's what Blazy is trying to do. She would say luxury must be comfortable. Otherwise, it's not luxury. And this is actually where I got my view of luxury, researching her forever ago when I was working for Chanel. She did not view luxury like some people talk about it today, like ornamental, over the top, great packaging, you know, luxurious materials, all of those things. And it can be all those things. But if it's not comfortable, if it doesn't let you live, if it doesn't make you confident and comfortable in your own self, it's not luxury. So if you feel uncomfortable going into a Chanel store and you are made to feel otherly, that's not luxury. That's not a luxury shopping experience. A luxury shopping experience is Bergdorf Goodman's. Go into Bergdorf's wearing a swimsuit, as long as that's legal with the health codes. You have to have shoes. They do not judge you. They are there to help you out. They are there to advise you. They are there. I mean, I had a guy once run across the street to get me a Coke because they had Pepsi in store and I don't drink Pepsi. I think I bought like a $200 sweater. I was not, I was not their high-end clientele. I mean, that is a luxurious experience. Whether you're coming in to buy a pair of sunglasses or an entire collection, they treat you as though you are their main focus and that they are there to do whatever it is you need to be happy. It's a luxurious experience. It's like being in a museum also. But if it looks or feels like a costume, Coco would say, because she said this, fashion is not theater. Now, look at Lagerfeld, right? A lot of his stuff was theater. Let's be honest. And I loved it. I loved Lagerfeld's runways. But I'm just saying, from Coco's eyes, she did not view fashion as a theater character place. The craftsmanship was very important to her, but like I said, as long as it was necessary. She did focus on the artisans, the people that the métier d'art are supposed to celebrate. So the embroidering, the pleatings, the beadings, the tweeds, all the fabric, all that work, there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into making these garments. And that's one of the reasons they are so expensive, because it's people's time. And that craft, those artisans have been disappearing because it's not something people teach anymore. And Chanel valued those artisans deeply. As long as the work served, again, the woman, the client, not the fantasy that someone else had, the designer or at the time, male gaze or anything else. It was about the woman and what served her. And it all had to be purposeful, not decorative. So if Blazy's collection, if you view it as overworked and overdone, that's not something Chanel would have favored. But if it was done to feel modern and clean, Coco would have loved that. That's something that she would have heralded. the idea of simplicity versus ornamentation, right? Chanel has always been ornamental. Obviously, the camellia and all the Lucky Charm things that she had, and the Chanel number 5, you know, all the numbers and the. It's not that she didn't think that there should be design elements. It's that she wanted them to be edited, clear, and essential to the brand, to the design. And so she had a very clear view of what she felt was essential. Now, again, this is her brand, her view, right? Someone else comes in, like Lagerfeld, and says, that's not my view. And someone else now, like Blazy, comes in and says, it's not my view either. So again, we're looking at this from a historical lens coming forward. And she would say that simplicity is the keynote of true elegance. So the more simplified something was, that to her was like real beauty and elegance. And I actually believe that is true. The little black dress, black was not a color, by the way, that was considered elegant and luxurious. Staff wore black. Like, you wore black at funerals. It was a color that people did not associate with elegance and upscale, you know, luxury. Neither were like leopard patterns and things, which Chanel did to bring into New York. She had a view that it was because it was very simplified and it would just go with anything. And that is why she favored it. And that's why she had this sort of black and white, a lot of the elements. But again, it was because it was simplistic, and that made it elegant because it was easy and it served the client, the woman. She had clean tailoring, restrained color palettes, and modern lines. It's one of the reasons you don't see, even in the makeup today, a lot of outlandish colors. Those 9-pan palettes was the first time I've seen anything that avant-garde for Chanel since I've been wearing Chanel, so since my 20s. It's just not what Chanel is. You know, the color palette is subdued. It always has been. Which is why when you see things like the 18S Emerald Caviar Chanel bags that came out in 2018, why they are now considered unicorn bags, because Chanel does not do those types of colors. They do greens, they do blues, they do purples. It's not that they don't do them, but a iridescent, luminescent, like, they don't do that. That's not it's not Chanel's brand. And I think where you see that, the clean tailoring, the restrained color palettes, I think she would approve. The things that are over the top, I think what she would actually say is, it's too much, take 2 things off. Because that was one of the things she would say, like, take 2 things off. Like, she'd, you know, see the design, then she'd be like, okay, take off these 2 things. Because it was too much. It wasn't simple. So modernity. Would Chanel think that this collection is for the women of today? Because that's how she designed, right? The woman, when she was doing it, it was the women for today. She wanted women to work. She wanted women to be more free. She wanted women to be able to do whatever they want. She designed for the modern women of her time, for travel, for working, for living. The chain strap on the bags was so that if you were on the back of the bikes in Europe, someone couldn't come along and cut the strap of your bag. That's why there's metal in those straps. It was very revolutionary and turned out to be like this very cool design element, but actually it was practical, or at least in her mind it was practical. So do these looks reflect today's lifestyle? Are they practical? Do they move well? Are they timeless? So that was her key watchword. If the designs felt nostalgic without an actual purpose, she would critique that. She'd be like, okay, that's cool, that's novel, you did a great job, the artisans did, but what's the purpose? What is it serving for my clients, for the women that are going to wear it? And in this case now men, because the clothes are more unisex. Authenticity. She hated people who tried too hard. She really hated that. Like, she was one of those people, she was probably just effortlessly cool. I've never been effortlessly cool, but she hated fashion that tried too hard. So that's interesting because, like, Lagerfeld, I mean, we could get into a whole discussion about whether he tried too hard, but she believed in an honest design where a piece feels effortless, not a bid for attention, not desperate for attention, not somebody who's standing out saying, look at me. The point of the design is that it's supposed to elevate the woman wearing it, and that woman is the best version of herself. So the question would be, does his vision feel sincere or theatrical? Or is his vision theatrical, but that's sincere to him? That's a more complicated question. And if you're saying that the collection is intelligent and intentional, she would approve of that. But I think the theatrical nature of it, the characterization of it, the fact that there's all these different characters, Chanel women, I don't think she would love that. But at the end of the day, I mean, this was a fun, in my opinion, this was a fun way to look at it, but it doesn't really matter what she would think. It doesn't matter what anyone thinks except the buyers. If no one buys this collection, if this collection does not sell, if none of these collections sell, if none of Blazy's collection sells, if the profits drop, that's all that matters. This is a business. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens. I'll be very interested to see how Blazy evolves through the Chanel brand. And I really loved some of the jewelry in the collection, this Métier. Again, I don't know if any of it will be my price point, but I did love some of the pieces. There are some purses that I really liked as well. They're not the ones that mostly got talked about. And it will be very interesting to see how this all affects the makeup, the beauty, because that will be next year. It won't be, I don't even think it'll be this year, because the beauty stuff has already been in process. Like the spring summer is coming out very soon, and I've already seen it, and it doesn't reflect, you know, the Blazy vision at all. So yeah, we won't see that really in maybe 2026, later 2026, but I think it's gonna be 2027 that we would actually see it. So that would be interesting to see. Again, this is a giveaway video, all long-term, all long content videos this month are. My question to you down below that you have to answer in the comments is, do you think Coco Chanel would approve of the Blazy Métier d'Art collection? Yet you can say something as simple as yes, no, and your reason why, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you like, share, hype the video, make sure you are subscribed, and I hope to see you again in another video really soon. Bye.